Hello and welcome to Talking Politics. Today we'll be talking about Open Doors, an organization that supports Christians that are persecuted worldwide. What does it mean to be a Christian? In some countries, they face lots of persecution that is so difficult to live their faith. I have here with me from Open Doors, Bethany Fuller. Bethany, you're very welcome to our studios. Nice to see you on set. And also Brian Potman, who is our political correspondent. Brian.
Good to be here, Barbara. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, Bethany, let's start with your World Watch List Top 5, the 2016 one. You actually launched it in Parliament. You are over 100 parliamentarians. You are in attendance. Tell us about this event.
Yes, well, every year we produce a list called the World Watch List, which looks at the 50 countries in the world where Christians face the greatest persecution. And we had the opportunity to launch that in Parliament in January. And we were really pleased with the event. We had at least 108 MPs attend and also at least 10 peers, which was brilliant. That included Hilary Benn, who's obviously the Shadow Secretary of State, and also Desmond Swayne, who is the Minister of State for International Development. And so it was brilliant to have such influential people there to hear about the situations that are facing Christians all around the world, and to be able to ask them to use their influence to do something to help them.
Important using their influence to do something to help them. There's something Theresa Villiers, the MP Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, said. She introduced the event and she said she became involved in the issue of persecuted Christians worldwide because her constituents asked her to.
Yes, that's right. Theresa Villiers really kindly hosted the event for us, and she said that she just received so many letters and emails asking her to find out more about the persecution of Christians that she just felt that she couldn't ignore what her constituents were asking of her. And actually, lots of other MPs said similar things to us, that they'd just been so inundated with emails and letters saying, "We really care about what's happening to Christians around the world. Please go and find out more." And so we were really pleased that our supporters really took it upon themselves to make sure that their MP was there, and it really just goes to show that when you speak out and speak to the people who represent you, it really can make a difference. So yeah, it was really great.
It was great. Well, we have a clip which highlights the top 5 most dangerous places in the world to be a Christian. Let's watch this clip.
Millions of Christians worldwide are persecuted because of their faith. Every year, Open Doors publishes the World Watch List to focus the world's attention on those 50 countries in which Christians face the greatest persecution. Here are the top 5 countries on the list, the most dangerous places in the world to be a Christian. Number 5, Syria. Christians are caught in the violence of the ongoing civil war and also specifically targeted by Islamic extremists for attack, abduction and murder. Yet the Church is still actively helping both Christians and Muslims. Number 4, Afghanistan. There is no visible church in Afghanistan. All Afghan believers are secret converts from Islam. Those accused of converting to Christianity face hostility, arrest and even death. Foreign aid workers who are Christian have been killed. Number 3, Eritrea. The government of Eritrea sees Christians as agents of the West. Pastors, church leaders and church members are imprisoned without trial. Thousands are kept in horrific conditions, some in metal shipping containers in scorching temperatures. Others are forced to work long hours doing manual labour. Many die as a result of their imprisonment. Number 2, Iraq. Islamic State has taken over major parts of the country, causing many Christians to flee for their lives. But militants also attack and destroy Christian communities elsewhere. There's been a church in Iraq for nearly 2,000 years. Now it's on the verge of extinction, with tens of thousands of Iraqi Christians either having left the country or being forced to live in refugee camps. Number 1, North Korea. For the 14th consecutive year, North Korea is number 1 on the World Watch List. The government considers Christians to be enemies of the state. Christians have to worship in secret. Possessing a Bible will put your whole family in danger. Thousands of Christians are imprisoned in horrific labour camps. But even so, North Koreans still choose to follow Christ, and the underground church is growing. Open Doors supports persecuted Christians in over 60 countries around the world. In these places, the church may be persecuted, it may be suppressed, attacked, or lied about. But it has not been, and it will never be, destroyed.
Open Doors 2016 World Watch List, the top 5. Beth, just listening to that report, there is no visible church in Afghanistan.
Yes, that's right. So until recently, I think there were a few churches there that were allowed to exist for people who had come into Afghanistan from other countries who were allowed to worship. But actually, indigenous Afghani people just have to keep their faith completely secret if they decide to become a Christian. It's a very strongly Islamic country. And there are many extremist groups who operate there, and if they hear of a Muslim leaving Islam and becoming a Christian, they will attack them and often kill them, and even persecution can come from within communities or families, because it can be very dishonouring if a Muslim leaves Islam, and so someone who converts to Christianity can come under a lot of persecution or attack. So as you say, Christians there often just have to keep their faith completely hidden. They might only know 1 or 2 Christians, or maybe not even any. Perhaps they just watch programs like this or listen to the radio, and that's perhaps how they hear about Christianity and how they grow in their faith. But they have to keep it extremely secret.
Let's talk about Syria and Iraq. You say that they are the tip of the iceberg. Global persecution of Christians is now more extreme than ever before, and that's what your 2016 Open Doors watch list says.
Yes, that's right. I'm sure that most people are aware of the rise of Islamic State within the Middle East, especially in Syria and Iraq, and they are a group who just hate anyone who doesn't conform to their brand of Islam, basically. So that can include more moderate Muslims, but also it includes Christians. And so thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes.
Even more moderate Muslims are also in danger of these groups. That's
right. Yes. So the self-proclaimed Islamic State are quite an extreme expression of a certain kind of Islam, and they just think that everyone should be conforming to their way of doing things and their way of worshipping God, and anyone who doesn't is in great danger.
In the 1990s, that is, and towards the turn of the 21st century, a country like Iraq had over 1.2 million Christians, and now the figure is about 250,000. How can such be prevented in other nations?
It's a big question, obviously, and there are a lot of factors that were contributing to causing so many Christians to have to feel that they had to flee Iraq. One thing that Open Doors really believes is that every country should be signing up to the Convention of Human Rights, which says in Article 18 that everyone should have the freedom of religion and belief. So they should be able to choose what religion they follow, or choose to not follow any religion, and they have the right to do that. And actually, if every country and government in the world would sign up to this and agree to this, then actually different groups would be perhaps more enabled to live peacefully in their homelands and alongside different groups also. Yeah.
Brian, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts
looking at Iraq, from 1.2 million Christians to 250,000 in just 30 years. That's a massive drop.
My fears are, Wilma, where does it end? Because Iraq, in history, that was the birthplace of Christianity, with the Tigris and the hubris coming through. But I say, where does it end? If it's got to this point so far, how does the Open Doors get in there and prevent this decline? What are the people there thinking? Because out of the watch list, there's 2 types of this persecution. 2 of them are certainly in Eritrea and in North Korea, they're government-led persecution of Christians. In the other three countries, Afghanistan, Syria and Iraq, they're by factions within the countries themselves. Iraq is one of those factions within the country themselves. The governments don't seem to be taking much positive action to change that at all. What can Open Doors do to try and force something?
Well, Open Doors does do quite a bit of advocacy work. So as we were speaking about at the start of the programme, we try to meet with, our UK office tries to meet with MPs and our government here in the UK and ask them to apply pressure where they have influence on governments and leaders of countries. And Open Doors as an international organisation also works in other countries to ask their governments to do the same. And we've also been in the EU actually at the start of the year doing a similar event to the one that we held in Parliament here, trying to just get the message out that Christians are facing persecution at a really serious and increasing level. So we really believe that advocacy can help to work towards a solution.
So I was interested when you asked a question about your reception in Parliament, how it was a grassroots getting in touch with MPs and pushing that forward. So your message is out there, certainly in the mainstream broadcasting. I've been watching the BBC and Sky and ITV. I never see anything specific about Christian persecution. It tends to be more about the plight of Muslims in those countries suffering, the communities there, but nothing specific about Christians. So to find that over 100 MPs came at the want of their constituents, it feels really good to me, Beth. It seems like that there is a movement which Open Doors is heading to try and reverse the trend, certainly in Iraq, as we said. Yeah,
definitely. It was really so positive to see just so many people engaging with this issue and so many people of influence. And certainly we have seen the media interest in the persecution of Christians increase recently. So certainly with the rise of Islamic State and other groups similar to them, such as Boko Haram in Nigeria, Al-Shabaab in the Horn of Africa. So yeah, it's something that we feel that more people need to know about. Really, it is a well-kept secret currently.
A well-kept secret currently. I was just about to ask you what you think the global community should be doing to prevent this, not just if you're of the government. Like Brian mentioned, some countries, the persecution is actually headed and spearheaded by the governments of the countries. So what should the global community be doing?
Well, I think, as I was saying to Brian, the main thing that they can, the global community in terms of global governments and those sort of people, we just really want them to be not turning a blind eye to what is happening to Christians in other nations, to be speaking out and putting pressure on those governments where they are able to. Certainly it's good to have groups such as the EU and the Human Rights Council who can speak out together and say that the treatment of Christians is unacceptable in certain places. So yeah, we really think that speaking out and applying pressure where possible is important.
Could you tell us some of the severe and peculiar persecutions that are being faced by Christians in these nations?
Yeah, there's a whole variety of different ways that Christians face persecution. So North Korea has been #1 on our World Watch list for the last 14 years. So it's the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. And there Christians experience just the most horrific treatment. Most Christians there must keep their faith just completely secret, because if it's discovered, they are sent to prison camps where they are kept in, just crammed into tiny cells, kept in horrible conditions. They face torture and abuse. They aren't fed well, they're not kept in good conditions, and many people die there. And we estimate that around 70,000 Christians are actually kept in these horrific labour camps.
70,000?
Yeah, so it's very extreme and horrendous there. And there are lots of nations where Christians experience violence and attack, but also there's another side of persecution which we call the squeeze, so as opposed to the kind of violent persecution where perhaps Christians are discriminated against in education. So perhaps Christian children are always sent to the back of the classroom or aren't given access to higher education. Or it might be that a Christian is discriminated against in terms of employment. Perhaps they find it really hard to find work, so they just can't provide for their families. And so that's where Open Doors does a lot of work in providing microloans to help Christians start small businesses who maybe can't find work elsewhere, providing scholarships for children who maybe wouldn't get a good education in their mainstream schooling system, and these kind of situations. Yeah.
Very interesting. Brian, I can see you have something to say.
I just open-eyed, I'm just amazed at the number of things that Open Doors does to try and help these people who are facing persecution. So listening to what you say about that people being discriminated against in education and in employment, and I'm thinking what this country does to make sure that no one here is discriminated against. With the Equality Act 2010 that came in, it's quite broad, just says if you're treated differently to someone else based on these few things like age, gender, religion, race, all of them, then that's discrimination and that's against the law. Again, that comes back into having a rule of law, and you must have a stable government in place that follows up on the laws of the international community. But I'd say on three of those countries, certainly Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan, the West has bombed those governments, and they are now not in control of those areas anymore. So there's no rule of law to enforce, certainly the UN conventions or anything at all. And it blows my mind what you're telling me, Beth, because the scale of what needs to be done to correct this is quite massive. How much change do you think we'll be able to do in the next few years?
Obviously, it's hard to say. We really hope to see transformation in those regions, and it can be easy to feel like they're quite hopeless when such horrendous things are happening there. But historically, we've really seen how things can change when people pray and when people act. So, for example, if you think of the communist bloc, people thought that that would never change, that Christians there would never have freedom. That's actually how Open Doors began, because our founder was taking Bibles into the Soviet bloc and going to support the persecuted church there. And then, of course, the Berlin Wall came down and things have changed. And so one of the first places that Brother Andrew, our founder, went to visit persecuted Christians was in Poland. And actually, we recently had a Christian Polish girl working in our UK office, and it's incredible to think that when Open Doors began, her faith would have been incredibly kind of oppressed, and yet now she's completely free to worship Jesus in Poland, and she came over to the UK and worked for a Christian organisation, and that situation has just completely turned around. And so we hope and pray and act in faith that God can do the same in other parts of the world.
That's amazing.
Beautiful perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, in November 2014, Prince Charles gave a video broadcast of the flight of Christians in the Middle East. Let's watch this clip.
It is an indescribable tragedy that Christianity is now under such threat in the Middle East, an area where Christians have lived for 2,000 years and across which Islam spread in 700 AD, with people of different faiths living together peaceably for centuries. It seems to me that our future as a free society, both here in Britain and throughout the world, depends on recognizing the crucial role played by people of faith. And of course, religious faith is all the more convincing to those outside the faith when it is expressed with humility and compassion, giving space to others, whatever their beliefs. With this in mind, I would like to suggest several tangible courses of action that I believe might be helpful. First and foremost, rather than remaining silent, faith leaders have, it seems to me, a responsibility to ensure that people within their own tradition respect people from other faith traditions. We have yet to see the full potential of faith communities working together. However, to do this effectively with a truly fraternal approach requires not only maturity in one's own faith, but also an essential humility.
Well, Prince Charles, talking about the flight of Christians in the Middle East, if Brother Andrew did it in the Soviet bloc, it means it can happen in North Korea and in Afghanistan as well.
Yeah, I mean, we really believe that. some of these situations to human eyes do seem impossible and are terrible, but we know that nothing is impossible with God, and we can pray and ask him to act, and we can do what we can to support the church in those places until things do change. And so, yeah, I think we have reason to be hopeful.
You've been doing this for over 60 years. Do you get enough support, and what sort of support do you get?
Yes, we have really amazing supporters who faithfully pray for the persecuted church and the work of Open Doors in countries around the world, who faithfully give, some people really sacrificially, because they just so care for their brothers and sisters around the world. And people do other really brilliant things too, like they write letters to persecuted Christians to let them know that they're praying for them, and we're able to pass those on. Yeah, which is great. Nice. And as I mentioned earlier, lots of people emailed their MPs or wrote to them, and really are just willing to speak out on behalf of their persecuted family, which is great. Obviously, as our 2016 World Watch List report has shown, persecution is increasing in all the regions where we work, sadly, and so there's always more that we can do, and always more that we want to do to support our persecuted church family around the world. But we are really fortunate to have really amazing supporters, and we're always looking for more.
So for someone who wants to support a secret church in North Korea, or one of the secret believers, how can they go about it? What can they do?
The best thing is probably to go to our website, which is opendoorsuk.org, and there you can find out all different information about Open Doors and what we do and how you can get involved. So you might like to pray, you might want to sign up to get emails or prayer diaries so you know how to pray for the persecuted church. You might like to sign up to give a gift. You might want to write to a persecuted Christian, and perhaps you'd like to have someone come and speak at your church so that more people can find out about the persecuted church. There's lots of different ways you can get involved, so yeah, I'd encourage you to go to our website and find out more.
And I think this is really an eye-opener for a lot of people in the public, because they aren't aware that Christians are persecuted to this extent worldwide.
That's been an eye-opener for me too, well, I must say, but Beth was talking, I'm going to let my fingers do the work and get a few letters out, certainly to my MPs, because that's an easy one to do. Writing letters to support people in other countries with their secret organisations, why Christianity should be a secret organisation, but it depends where you are in the world. You say Christianity, with the support that Brother Andrew did, getting out there and getting letters to the people in the Soviet bloc, and the Berlin Wall came down. If we get letters out to support the people in these countries that are facing persecution, then maybe those walls will come down too. But certainly North Korea, which is a very close society, and Eritrea, which is a close society, if they can be opened up, the world will benefit as well as the Christians.
Yeah, definitely. We are really praying for North Korea that situation will change, and we really hear such incredible things from the Christians there, who say that they really believe that soon North Korea and South Korea will be reunited again, and that church will be a church that that sends missionaries out all across the world and brings the good news of Jesus to many other places. They really have a vision for the future of their church, and we really want to be a part of that.
Certainly, those Christians that face persecution still have hope through the Bible and through belief in Jesus Christ and their faith. Still have hope. They still have the vision, and that's a very reassuring thing, that Christianity is so strong. If they're facing extreme persecution, their faith has to be extreme and strong, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Talking about your 60th anniversary celebration, we actually have a clip. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, he actually recorded his message for you, Open Doors, and he says Open Doors actually inspired him to take Bibles to Czechoslovakia and Romania. That was the Soviet bloc we talked about recently.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's watch this clip.
It's a huge privilege for me to be able to deliver this message to Open Doors after 60 years of their existence. What an incredible amount of time, and what an extraordinary thing has been accomplished by them. When I first came to faith in Christ at the age of 19 in 1975, I almost immediately was introduced to the story of Brother Andrew. A few years later, my wife and I took Bibles, not with Open Doors, but with a similar organisation, to Christians in what was then Czechoslovakia, and also the following year to Christians in Romania. The reason behind that was the inspiration that came from that vision to strengthen what remains. But Open Doors has shown the true signs of the presence of the Spirit of God in that it has been faithful to its vision and foundation, but adaptable as the world around it has changed. And today it is one of the most credible, powerful, authentic, and determined advocates of the protection of Christians, but also generally of religious liberty. At the beginning of this century, and around the turn of the millennium, there were roughly 1.3 million Christians in Iraq. By 2013, there were 300,000. Today, there are significantly less. You could say the same about Syria and about many other places in that region. It is Open Doors who has provided the effective information and the determined communication of that, which has enabled people like me who, in one sense, are passengers on their work, to speak passionately on behalf of those people. So I want to say thank you and to endorse what you do. It would be easy for Open Doors to have lurched into being a sort of anti-everyone else kind of organisation, and many have, many other organisations. But Open Doors is wonderful at demonstrating the causes and signs of hope, where Christians have supported Muslims and Muslims have supported Christians, and so on around the world with different faith traditions. Truly, you exemplify the God who so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that all who believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. You live that out in your reality. I pray that God will bless your ministry and go on blessing it. Thank you for what you do.
Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. Just before we go, Beth, how does Open Doors work with North Korean Christians to encourage them?
Yeah, we actually have an appeal for North Korea at the moment, and through our local partners we're able to really do some great things to support North Korean Christians. So many North Korean Christians will sneak over the border from North Korea into China, which is actually quite a dangerous journey, but fortunately some people do manage to do it. And once they reach China, we're able to provide them with food and with medicines and with Bibles that they can take back into North Korea. And we also have local partners who run safe houses there where Christians can receive training and discipleship. And we partner with people who are able to broadcast Christian radio programs into North Korea. So yeah, we're really grateful to our local partners who do this amazing work. It's quite dangerous and quite difficult sometimes, and your prayers for them would be really appreciated. But yeah, it's great that actually the church around the world is able to support our North Korean brothers and sisters in this way. Because North Korea has been the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian for the 14th time in a row, for 14 years. Yes, that's right. It's a long time, but we're praying that that will change soon. But until it does, we really want to be standing with our brothers and sisters in North Korea who face just such terrible persecution, and yet they know that following Jesus is worth it, is worth whatever their government might throw at them. So they're really incredible people, and they need us to stand with them. Well, you said it, if you could change in the Soviet bloc, it can change in North Korea. Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you for coming on the program. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming on. Well, viewers, this is Talking Politics. We've been talking about Open Doors, which is an organization that supports Christians that are persecuted worldwide, and we've looked at the 2016 World Watch List Top 5. Presently, North Korea is the most dangerous place to actually be a Christian. If you're thinking of how to support Open Doors, or you can write emails or go to the website of opendoorsuk.org, and if you have any questions, you can send emails to talkingpolitics@loveworldtv.co.uk. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.